This is the only bunny Pokemon that I have, which is surprising considering I like most of them. Well, I like this one, and I like Venery, and I like Bunnelby, and I love Lot Bunny, and all this one's forms. And I don't like Diggersby. Why is Diggersby so ugly? It did not have to be ugly. Bunnelby is adorable. So, it's Easter. I got another bunny video to talk about. This one's going to be talking about My Hero Academia character, the rabbit hero Mirko. I actually do have a score bunny that I nicknamed after Mirko that I think I talked about. I know I talked about that one in one of my Pokemon anime videos that I did. So you're going to go in the background. I don't really have as good of a place to set you anymore as I used to. Stay. We'll see how quickly you end up falling over. We'll also see how long the ears stay on. Easter, I tend to usually pick a bunny to talk about or something like that. And I have somewhat talked about Mirko before on the channel when I talked about the, different, My Hero Academia Pokemon that I've done. And I've mentioned her in a few other things where I was like listing my top favorite, like rabbit cartoons or cartoon rabbits or whatever. Or fictional rabbits, I guess would have been the better way of putting it. But this video is fully about her, so I'm going to talk about pretty much most of the stuff that we've seen in the story and everything like that. And I was like, well, I don't know if we're going to get another chapter right before Easter or not, so this is just going based on all the current information that we have. So, Rumi Usagiyama, or Bunny Mountain. I love the fact that her name is Bunny Mountain. Side note, I mentioned to my mom the other day that, well, maybe the next pet we should get, maybe I wouldn't mind trying to see about getting a rabbit. At the very least, then I would have a channel mascot. Or a different one than Rainy. But that's neither here nor there. So Rumi is the rabbit hero Mirko. She is the number 5 pro hero at the moment. And her quirk is just called Rabbit. It gives her the attributes and abilities of a rabbit. This grants her, incredible leg strength, allowing her to jump and kick with extreme force, as we see her use several times throughout the course. Well, kind of when she first appears a little bit with the high-end Nomu that shows up, that Dobby and Endeavor, or that Dobby sent after Hawks and Endeavor, and then of course during the hospital raid arc, we really see what she's capable of, and then of course more during the current war going on against One for All for One. And she's also, she can destroy, a huge amount. She can do a huge amount of damage with her feet. She also has excellent hearing because of the rabbit ears and such, which she uses in regarding to, figuring out where threats are coming from and using her animal instincts in regards to sensing nearby danger. So there's a fair amount of that. The ultimate attacks that she has shown at the moment that we've seen her use are Luna Ring, which she just does where she uses her incredible leg strength to kick multiple targets simultaneously as she performs a cartwheel in the air with her legs extended. She uses this. Most of these we saw her use during the hospital raid arc when she's going after Garaki, when she's trying to go after him. And trying to stop Shigaraki from being awakened and everything. We see her use these kicks against the high-end Nomu and stuff like that. And of course, just destroying the lab in the process as well. There's also, all of her attacks have like Luna in them, which makes perfect sense because Luna and Bunny and, all of that fun stuff. She also has Luna Fall, which where she swings her foot out downwards while she is above her opponent, driving her target straight into the ground beneath her with a mighty kick. And then there's Luna Tijeris. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Where she mounts her opponent's head and grips them tightly with her legs before twisting her body, pulling with all of her superhuman leg strength to rip her opponent's head cleanly off, and then smashing it into the ground. I'm assuming this is one that she kind of has a little bit more reserve when it comes to using. Against the Nomu, it's one thing to use it, and in life or death situations, it's one thing to use it, but I don't think she generally uses this against most of the villains she's against. That she's fighting against is probably very much this is reserved for very specific moments, or in regards to probably very useful against having to fight against robots and stuff like that, people that are within like armor, and stuff like that. If they're in like a mech suit, that would be very useful, in dealing with that and like separating the head from the body in that regard. So those types of things. And then there's Luna Arc, which is she raises her leg and delivers a powerful front-facing axe kick to her opponent. I believe this is the one that she uses to destroy the tanks that Shigaraki is in, when she's trying to, deliver those final blows. And then her newest one that we've seen is Luna Rush, which is she rushes towards her opponent and propels them with a series of powerful kicks. Pummels them with a series of powerful kicks. This is, I think, what we've seen her use most recently in the manga during the fight against All for One. And before I really go into her character history, which I will do in a moment, I had two things. One, I wanted to read one of these quotes that she has. I live every day of my life like there's no tomorrow, so that when my number's up, I can check out with no regrets. No way this horde of zombies is going to end Mirko the hero. I believe this is part of what she says when she's trying to deal with Garaki in the labs. And then on a slightly more fun note, one of the things that has happened is, so one of the artists, one of the ears are coming off now, sorry. Go over here by the other buddy. One of the artist assistants that Horikoshi has is also a Megen the Stallion fan. So you've possibly seen art of Mirko mimicking Megen the Stallion, and then Megen the Stallion also dressing up as Mirko. She also just is a My Hero Academia fan in general, because she also dressed up like Todoroki at one point for like the cover of a magazine, so that was cool. But one of the assistants has done lots of different art pieces and sketches and drawings and stuff like that of Mirko mimicking Megen the Stallion and wearing the same outfits or similar outfits and in the same poses and stuff like that, that are poses that Megen the Stallion has done. And then I believe last year for Halloween, Megen the Stallion dressed up as Mirko, and had like promotional art pictures made of her dressed as Mirko, and just to like promote that. And I was so happy about that. That just made me so happy for some reason. I don't know why, but it did. And there'll be a link in the description in regards to where you can see a lot of the different pictures and stuff. And I just like that. It's just like, throwing, throwing references back at each other. I like that. That's fun. Now more into the history of Mirko, into her story. So for the most part, I was trying to see, I don't remember if I found how old Mirko was. I'm assuming she's at least in her 20s, late 20s, early 30s at the most. But I don't remember if I saw a specific answer for how old she was, unless I just completely missed it when I was looking through stuff. And if I did, I apologize. But she's definitely around like the same age as Hawks, because like they tend to get along really well. And I know that Horikoshi has drawn like sketches of the two of them together in like I was about to say in Hogwarts, but that's wrong, in high school. Although Mirko did not go to UA, we do know that she went to a different hero academy. Probably not Shiketsu, or it would have been stated by now if she went to Shiketsu. That would have been something they would definitely be like, yeah, we got one of the top 5 heroes. We got Mirko. But that's not the case at the moment. So the earliest thing that we know about Rumi is that when she was in middle school, she was in several different fighting clubs and everything like that. different types of martial arts and stuff like that, which very much alludes to the different type of fighting style that she uses. And she she was also a legendary schoolgirl hooligan called Bunny-Eared Usako. So she liked to cause trouble. She gets apprehended in various points in time, but she still ends up just going to school and everything. She does get expelled at one point when her actions are, revealed and stuff. But eventually she ends up in an unnamed hero, school in Hiroshima. And then sometime later during a school trip to Osaka, she and her two friends got lost, but Fat Gum finds them and gives them directions, so there's a connection there. And they just head back on their trip. A lot of this is just a little bit like stuff that pops up in Vigilantes, is where most of this first bits come from, just because, and like additional information that Horikoshi has said about Mirko. So none of this is most likely ever going to end up in the anime unless they end up animating Vigilantes, which I would love if they did. That would be great. That would be great. And kind of the next major thing that happens is there's the Underground Masquerade villain arc that happens in Vigilantes, and during that time frame where we have, I believe it's O'Clock. He's not quite Knuckle Duster yet, but he's still O'Clock at the time, I think. And then I think one of the others that we end up seeing later on in the Hasaikai arc is there as well. And they team up with Mirko, who has shown up as, well, she's still just Rumi at this point in time, shown up as the masked mystery beauty Tiger Bunny. And she shows up and she wants to take part in this, and then she ends up helping fight against the different, I think it's like a very rough version of one of the high-end Nomus that finds its way in there, that was put there by, Garaki and All for One, that they end up having to fight, and she just rushes into the fight in the cage and just ends up doing a whole bunch of that stuff there, and like helping protect the audience, and then everything along those lines. She runs around, and helps, O'Clock and such deal with, the ones that are going on there, and they have to deal with Kurogiri's warp gates at times as well. So there's not, we get some, hints about what she's able to do at that point in time. And then, of course, eventually the police show up, and I for some reason, I was trying to remember if All Might was ever involved in that battle or not, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I think so, but don't quote me on that. And then Mirko ends up getting out. Rumi ends up escaping before the police show up. She gets away, and she just, we see her like take off her mask, and she had fun, and then probably just heads back to school. So there's not too much else we see there with her. It's implied that, after that point in time, she ends up eventually does, there's additional times where we do see her in Vigilantes, but she eventually does become the pro hero Mirko and such. A couple of years later, after she graduates from high school and such, she definitely takes more. She starts to take her duties as a hero more seriously in that regard. Although Mirko is I think the only top 10 hero, if not one of the top 100 heroes, that is not actually associated with an agency. She does not have an agency that she is a part of, so she doesn't really have any sidekicks or any other people that are helping her very often. She probably has like a manager and a publicist, but she doesn't have like a full-on agency behind her. She's one of like the only ones that doesn't. So the next time that we kind of see her in chronological order is during Vigilantes again, during the Sky Bomber arc, where they're like inside of the skyscraper or whatever building that's getting bombed. And her, Midnight, and Ryuku and such are all, they all have like Best Jeanist make like nice outfits for them to wear for like this celebrity fashion show thing that they're doing. And of course they're involved with dealing with number 6 trying to do assassination attempts on Captain Celebrity and stuff like that, and she's part of that in regards to trying to take down Bomber and all of that, but she's not too much involved in the rest of that. And then the next stuff that we get is in My Hero itself, in the actual, main story, as opposed to the side story. Not that the side story, I love Vigilantes. I would love it if they animated it. That would be great. But I don't see that happening. But hey, I could be wrong. We'll see. It took them how long to do Bleach, to continue with Bleach. So, but then we also go into My Hero. So the first time that we kind of get or introduced to Mirko fully is in the Pro Hero arc, which is introducing the new Billboard charts and everything like that after All Might's retired. And Mirko is, of course, she's number 5. She's the highest ranking female hero. And of course, Ryuko is was number 10 at that point in time. So they're the 2 highest ranking female heroes. And Mirko, of course, gives some attitude. She's just she's like very bold in her declaration, and she kind of like Hawks' bold declaration in that regard as well. And, kind of slightly mocks Endeavor and stuff like that. And then when when Hood shows up and fights against Hawks and Endeavor, Mirko shows up right at the end. And is able to like attack. I think there's like a Dobby clone that's there that she attacks. That was cloned by Twice and everything. And she shows up. She doesn't really do too much there. We get to see her have a cool entrance and everything, so that's nice. And she tries to kick Dobby to Kingdom Come, but he vanishes into the the warping cork. So there's not too much else that happens in that one. Obviously, the next big one, the next very big stuff that we get with Mirko is, of course, in regards to the Paranormal Liberation War arc. So this one is where we really get a couple of chapters, if not a couple of episodes, where we really get to see Mirko shine in this regard. And she is, of course, part of the hospital raid setup that are going to Jakku Hospital to try to get Garaki. And she, along with Endeavor and Eraserhead and, Present Mike's there and a whole bunch of others are there. And it's her job is to, once the main group take down, confirm that the Garaki that's, wandering the halls is actually a clone, then she goes through and busts her way down into the lab area where they find the real Garaki. And she just starts going ham on the place, destroying as much stuff as she can, using all of her different attacks, Luna Arc, Luna everything, all over the place. And she Garaki sicks all the different, a bunch of the different Nomu on her, the high-end Nomus on her as she's, fighting her way through the lab, because, her intention is to get to where she sees Shigaraki, because if she can get to his tank, and they're under the impression that when she can get to his tank, she can, destroy the tank, and that will prevent him from still being in like hibernation, but also prevent them from being able to awaken him, is kind of the intention there. So she's, of course, part of that. She was probably also part of like the planning team for figuring out how to get into the hospital and everything, and how to get to where Garaki is. Also, she's supposed to partially be set up as like a distraction, also her main mission, to help get, so that way a bunch of the other heroes can work on getting all of the different civilians and patients and doctors and everything like that out of the hospital. So that way they're safe while she's taking care of Garaki. And while her and a bunch of the other heroes, Endeavor and Eraserhead and such, are all acting as trying to deal with the different Nomu. So that's where we're kind of getting into that territory. So she's part of that group. And she is, of course, just, she destroys several of the different Nomu during this time frame, destroying tanks, destroying the Nomu themselves. She ends up... One of them, awakens and tries to crush her, and she, of course, ends up having to lose her arm. I don't remember which arm it was. I want to say it was... Wait, which arm was it? I'm trying to remember. It's like, what arm was it? I don't remember, but she loses one of her arms. And she also loses one of her legs during this whole time frame because like she gets like caught in a whole bunch of this wire stuff because like one of the Nomu either wraps her up in the wires with the with their quirk or with their strength or whatever, and she just like screw it and pulls her own arm off, which I'm just like, oh god. A lot of people make the comment of like, most anime when it comes to bunny girls, they're kind of like, they're sweet and docile. Don't make the bunny girls in My Hero Academia angry at you, for they will chase you and they will be feral and you will be scared. Oh god. Mirko just like she makes a tourniquet out of something to like stop her arm, and she does the same thing on her leg a little bit later when she's when she is able to like attack Tomura's tank and get that shattered. And then later on she does one of the other Nomu stabs their attack or part of their quirk or whatever right through her right leg, and that gets she has to rip that off as well in order to keep fighting and to use her Luna arc and everything like that. She does use the one where the Luna Tijeras, where she, pops the head off the body with her leg strength. She does use that at one point to kill one of the robot heads and stuff like that that's there for one of the other ones. And she is just exceedingly wounded during this time frame. There's like, Endeavor shows up at one point during this time frame, and he actually he has her bite down on like some form of cloth or whatever while he like cauterizes her wounds, which, I mean, in that type of a situation, that is probably the best that they're going to be able to do, because a tourniquet can only do so much with an open wound. And, he cauterizes, it's her left leg, and I think it's her right leg, and I think it's her left arm. I'm like, wait, her right leg and her left arm are, I think, the two that have the problem, that are the ones that get taken off. And Endeavor cauterizes those with his fire, which, as I've stated before, Endeavor, not a good parent, not a good husband, probably not the best role model in the world by any means. He is a good hero, and he's probably had to do this before to someone in regards to cauterizing someone else's wounds, depending on the circumstances. So that's not really surprising that he's aware of having to do this, and all of that. So Endeavor gets Mirko to safety, because when Tomura wakes up, because he does end up waking up, he releases his quirk, and Endeavor is able to get Mirko out of there before she's hit by the decay. So that's good. She's not really involved in the rest of what happens in that arc because she is exceedingly wounded. And she gets taken into, Endeavor gets her out of the collapsing building and everything. And she's left with several of the other heroes and the medics and stuff like that that are at the area. In regards to like treating the civilians and everything else and the other heroes that have been injured during this time frame, and, dealing with capturing Garaki and everything like that. And at one point in time, Garaki actually tried to like taunt Mirko while she was like, wrapped up in some of the stuff. And she's just like, yeah, no, I'm going to keep going. You should run type of thing. So she is just like nonstop in that regard. She wasn't slowing down in those regards. She's like, I have a mission and I am going to fulfill that mission, and you're in the way. And she, I mean, like, that was her job, was to destroy Shigaraki's tank, and it was not her fault that he woke up again. So she's taken out of there. We see her near the end of the arc. We see her being treated, being still very wounded alongside Hawks. And, when we're getting like the list of all the injured and the dead, she's there. And then, when we get to where everybody's in the hospital, we do cut to where we see Mirko, and she is, her part of her arm and part of her leg are gone. She ain't getting those back. And she is just like, I'm not done. she's like, I'm continuing fighting. I have my resolve, and I am going to keep going even after so many of the other heroes are resigning and everything like that. She's like, no, I'm going. I'm going to keep fighting. And I remember one of the images from the manga that they definitely put in the anime was where she's like got her tourniquet on her arm and she's just like strapping it on. Probably, strapping on something so she can keep fighting. It's like, I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep going. I am not done. I am not down. This bunny is not done yet. And then, of course, we get into the final war arc. And during this time frame, which we're still in the final war arc at the moment in the manga, and anyway, so I don't know the conclusion of what's going to happen with this, but I wanted to get this stuff about Mirko out now, and then I may end up doing a video later on where we get like the conclusion as to what happens with Mirko at the end of it. But what we get in the manga at this point in time is also Mirko gets some fun cover pages throughout the course of the series, which I do like. And with this one, during the final battle, it is revealed that she has a new prosthetic arm and a prosthetic leg, and that they are interchangeable with other different types of weaponry that she can call out at any different point in time, which I find awesome. So Mirko is part of the group that goes up against One for All, where they use, the warp gate ability to warp all of them there after they've been, after they've tricked All for One into showing up. Trick, they lured him there. Trick is a strong word in that regard, but they get him there, and she's part of that group along with Izuku and Bakugo and several other ones that are supposed to show up in that area, including Endeavor and Hawks and such, when they get brought there. And she is part of that group with like Best Jeanist and Edge Shot and everything. And she is, I think, part of the group that is actually attacking Tomura, not All for One. But she's part of that group along with like Best Jeanist and Edge Shot and Nejire and a bunch of them. And they're trying to deal with him in the floating fortress. And during this time frame, she kind of gets paired up with Bakugo a lot during this time frame, which is good. They kind of have very matching personalities in a bit of the fact that like she is a little bit less likely to be like the happy-go-lucky hero. She's like, yeah, I can be serious at times, but I'm also fond of making jokes, but I'm also not as exceedingly worried about like the public's opinion of me is, so we get that. And Bakugo is very much the same way in that regard. I know I've read a lot of fanfics or a lot of stories where they have like Bakugo gets paired up with her as one of her like sidekicks after graduation, which I'm like, I could see that. Given everything that happens in the story, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the story, if she's alive, which I really hope she survives, that if Horikoshi did end up like having it be that she does have like a hero agency later on, and because she's clearly not letting herself be slowed down by the fact that she has, prosthetic arm and prosthetic leg, and she is just like, screw you, I still have my jumping power and my kicks, and now I can just have a minigun on my arm too if I want, so F you, Shigaraki, and all your Nomu. And she's part of that. She keeps going out, and, she can like swat, one arm gets, one part of the arm got destroyed, so she just like summons up another one, or part of her leg got attacked by something, so she just like knocks it off and summons up another one. She's got like this, I don't know, it's like this little housing unit that like can pop out of the ground or whatever, and like keeps popping and throwing her new arms and legs as needed during the fight. Which I just find pretty freaking cool in that regard. So she's dealing with that. This is where she introduces her Luna Rush arc, her Luna Rush attack, where she uses at one point, I believe, against Tomura. And she does seem to be upset by what happens when Bakugo's supposed death. So she does seem to be upset with that. She also ends up getting caught in the giant weird mutant hand thing that like Tomura does, where he's got like all of them a bunch of them like pinned in his fingers that he like multiply grew. I don't know what happens. It's disturbing. And like they're trapped there. He can't activate decay on them at that point in time because of the fact that Monoma is using, erasure on them, erasure on Shigaraki, so he can't use his quirks, but he's, can't physically fully activate them. But, Mirko was trapped in that part. And then when Izuku showed up, he was able to attack, and that kind of got the rest of the heroes freed. And then, of course, everything happens with Bakugo. And we don't really know too much else about what's going on right now. Mirko is kind of still part of the fight a little bit, but she's not really able to do too much against Shigaraki at the moment because there's stuff going on there with, Izuku and everything. And she did end up getting punched by Shigaraki later on. And she barely survived the punch. And she's kind of like unconscious on the ground at the moment while everything is, going on around her still. So she's kind of like knocked out of the fight at the moment. If she wakes up again, I'm not going to be surprised by that, but that's also going to be, we'll see how that ends up playing out in the long run, if she does end up waking up or if she doesn't. Or if she at least doesn't wake up again until like after the fight's over. And she's been out for several chapters now, if I remember correctly. So we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. But there's not too much other information that we have about that at the moment. I know there's like other, side note, additional trivia information, but there wasn't really too much else I wanted to add. I did want to mention the Megen the Stallion thing because I like that artwork that they that the assistant used and that type of stuff, or that she made and such, and that, that call out, that shout out that Megen the Stallion gave back to them. Hey, I like Megen the Stallion. She's fun. But, so there wasn't really too much else there. I kind of thought this video would initially be longer, but I was wrong. Yeah, this is my bunny video for Easter. I hope, if you celebrate Easter, I hope you had a happy Easter. If you didn't and you're just watching this because it's about Mirko, then I thank you anyway. If you don't celebrate Easter, go and get all this candy that'll be on sale tomorrow when it's, on sale in the grocery stores or whatever, because there'll be a fair amount of chocolate and everything like that. So it's just like, hey, it's worth it. You get chocolate on sale. Sure. Colorful eggs, candy, whatever else you want to go with. Side note, so as I mentioned in previous videos, video that I put up on Friday for the One Piece video, I took my grandfather, who is a former pastor, he's a retired pastor, well, he still technically preaches at the nursing home at the assisted living home that he lives at, but I took him to church both for Maundy, Thursday service and for Good Friday service this past weekend. And I made the comment that, we don't really get together that much for Easter anymore as a family because most of us kids are all grown up at this point in time. And, there's not really that many like little great grandkids anymore. There's not really any little great grandkids. The youngest is my nephew, and he's like 12. Going to be 13 later this year. But, we always used to get together and do Easter and stuff like that at either my grandparents' house that lived here in Lincoln, and, they would hide all the Easter eggs, and all of us grandkids would go out around their yard and find them, and then, other stuff where we would go to my aunt and uncle's house that lived out in Waverly, which is a small town just outside of Lincoln. We would go to their house and, egg hunt there as well, depending on stuff. Generally, it was like close to, Lincoln, or sometimes we would go out to some of my other family's homes, depending on certain circumstances, and do, Easter egg hunts there, do big family Easter stuff at those places, depending on stuff. But, so it's just like nice memories of like running around and having fun with my cousins and everything like that. And spending time with family. Those are mainly what I have for Easter memories, but, that's not, not everybody celebrates Easter, and that is perfectly understandable. And even if you do celebrate Easter, it's not always on the same day, because I know that Orthodox Christians also have well, they have, you know, Easter and Christmas and everything, but they celebrate them on slightly different days than what we do, you know, what most Protestants and Catholics do, which is perfectly fine. Yes, happy Easter to everyone, regardless of whether or not you celebrate it. I just hope you have a nice day today. You know, spring wherever you are. I hope you enjoy the nice weather if there's nice weather. Get chocolate on sale, whatever. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So, bye.